the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S. Now, in the midst of a global pandemic, it's never been more important to have an open dialogue about mental health, suicide awareness, and a resource guide for those at risk. Joining us to offer tips for those who may be struggling is Dr. Meghan Marcum, Chief Psychologist at A Mission for Michael. Welcome to Bloom, Doctor.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you on the show because this is such an important subject. Can you break down the latest stats on depression, anxiety, and suicide for us?
Yeah, so mental health disorders are a growing concern in the United States. We know suicide rates have been climbing for the past decade, and as you mentioned, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. In fact, more firearm deaths are a result of suicide every year, not homicide. Depression is also the leading cause of disability across the world. With regard to anxiety and stress, those rates have also been climbing. Prior to COVID-19, rates of anxiety in the U.S. were already alarming. Before COVID, 1 in 5 adults reported having symptoms that met criteria for a diagnosis of an anxiety disorder. And this year, we're seeing a significant increase in anxiety symptoms, including the more severe end of the spectrum, which causes panic attacks and other debilitating symptoms. The American Psychological Association has been closely monitoring folks this year, and their research shows various factors brought on by the pandemic have greatly increased people's risk for developing anxiety and depression. And not surprisingly, they found that individuals had prior mental health conditions have seen their symptoms escalate, even among those who had relatively stable conditions with only minor symptoms pre-pandemic.
And it seems like all of the stress and anxiety is really propelling the problem of people turning to alcohol or other substances to try to find relief.
Absolutely. This year, the pandemic has brought so many changes to how we live our lives every day. For many of us, our routines and our usual ways have been upended. We've seen 30 million Americans file for unemployment, numbers which haven't been matched since the Great Depression. With that comes financial stress, and for many who lost their job, that also means the loss of healthcare coverage. In addition, schools have closed, so parents have had to struggle with keeping up with online education, trying to do their own work. And then there's the ongoing need for widespread social distancing, which means less interaction with our friends and loved ones. So all of this has happened very quickly, and with so many drastic changes over the year, it has definitely contributed to increased rates of anxiety, depression, substance use or relapse, and trauma.
So now that we're all dealing with these, lockdowns and staying home and staying safe, maybe you might notice somebody that you love is struggling. What can we do as a family member or a loved one to help?
It's important to consider in which ways a person is struggling. So if you're having trouble functioning, meaning that your relationships or your work have been largely impacted, you might want to consider talking to a mental health professional like a psychologist or a psychiatrist. The government has relaxed regulations to make telehealth visits much more accessible. This means that you can meet with one of those professionals from the privacy and comfort of your own home. For those who are wondering what they can do at home just to maybe boost their mood or decrease stress, I would recommend getting at least 8 hours of sleep every night, taking time throughout the day to relax and step away from the news, and more importantly, finding ways to connect with each other. One-on-one connections through FaceTime or Zoom can be really helpful, much more so than simply posting your thoughts and feelings out on social media.
So can you tell us more about A Mission for Michael?
A Mission for Michael is located in Southern California, but we have a really wonderful website where you can find more resources on how to deal with anxiety and depression. In addition, we've got a 24-hour hotline that you can ask questions, and you can find all of that at amfmtreatment.com.
All right, Doctor, well, if there's one silver lining in the COVID pandemic is more experts like yourself are starting a conversation that we really need to hear. So hopefully people can get the help they need. If you or a loved one is struggling, you can visit Dr. Marcum's website at amfmtreatment.com. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us on Bloom today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, and we're going to be back with more Bloom right after this.